Your task is to refine part 1 of the story into a 900-word version with simple language, written in third person, without headings, and making it interesting. Remember to keep your citations in correct format, using text if you reference web content. The research ship Horizon floated quietly in the empty space of the Andromeda sector. The small vessel carried only 12 crew members, all focused on their mission to map this distant part of space. Captain Jia Kim stood on the bridge, her dark eyes watching the stars through the large front window. She had been a captain for 15 years, but this mission felt different. Something about this sector made her uneasy. "Captain, I'm seeing something strange on the sensors," called out Day Park from his science station. His fingers moved quickly across the glowing screen. "It's big and moving toward us fast." Kim walked over to look at his screen. "Could it be an asteroid?" "No, it's changing direction. Asteroids don't do that." Day pointed to a blinking dot on his screen. Before Kim could answer, the whole ship shook hard. Red lights flashed as alarms began to sound throughout the horizon. "What's happening?" she shouted over the noise. "We're caught in some kind of beam," yelled Min Lee from the pilot's seat. He tried to steer the ship away, but nothing happened. "Engines aren't responding." Kim ran back to the main window. Her heart stopped as she saw a massive ship appear from behind a nearby asteroid. It was at least 20 times larger than the Horizon, with a strange design unlike any ship she had seen before. The unknown vessel pulled them closer with its powerful beam. "All crew to battle stations," Kim ordered through the ship's speaker system. "Security Officer Han, arm the crew?" Han's voice came back over the system. "Yes, Captain." But it was already too late. The Horizon's hull made a terrible screeching sound as the alien ship forced them to dock. The crew grabbed whatever weapons they could find as they heard strange noises at the main airlock. Officer Han and 2 security team members stood ready at the entrance, weapons aimed. The metal door glowed red-hot before melting away. Through the smoke, tall figures moved toward them. The creatures that entered were nothing like humans. They stood on 2 legs but were much taller, with hard, shiny skin like insects. Each had 4 arms and eyes on stalks that moved independently. They made clicking sounds to each other as they saw the humans. Han fired his weapon. The energy blast hit one of the aliens, but seemed to do nothing against its hard outer shell. The creatures moved with surprising speed, rushing forward and easily overpowering the human defenders. "Fall back," yelled Han, but the aliens were everywhere now. Kim tried to reach the emergency beacon to warn Earth, but a sharp pain in her neck stopped her. The alien behind her had used some kind of stinging weapon. As she fell to the floor, her vision blurring, she saw her crew being taken down one by one. Kim woke up feeling cold. She tried to move but couldn't. Looking around, she realized she was inside some kind of clear cell. The walls hummed with energy. Beyond her cell, she could see her crew members in similar containers. "Captain, you're awake!" It was Su Jin, the ship's doctor, in the cell next to hers. She looked tired but unhurt. "Where are we? What happened?" Kim asked, her mouth dry. "We're on their ship," Su explained. "I've been awake for a few hours. They've been bringing other aliens through here. Some get taken away and don't come." "Fuck." A cold feeling spread through Kim's body as she understood what Su meant. She looked around more carefully and saw that the room was filled with cells containing different alien species. Some looked plant-like, others had fur or scales, but all looked afraid. "Have you learned anything about them?" Kim asked, trying to think clearly despite her fear. Su nodded. "They call themselves the Vraks. I heard them using some kind of translation device when talking to other prisoners. They see other species as food." The word hung in the air between them. Kim refused to accept this as their fate. She carefully studied their cell, looking for any weakness. "Have you seen all the crew?" she asked. "Yes, everyone's here. Some are still unconscious." As they talked, 2 Vraks entered the prison area. They walked slowly between the cells, looking at the prisoners like shoppers choosing vegetables at a market. They stopped in front of a cell holding a small furry alien. One Vrax pressed something on a control panel and the cell opened. Despite the creature's desperate cries, they took it away. "We need to get out of here," Kim whispered. "Tell everyone who's awake to watch everything. Learn the ship's patterns. Look for any weakness in these cells." Over the next few hours, the rest of the crew woke up. Kim shared her plan: observe, learn, and prepare. They noticed that once every few hours, the humming of their cell walls changed slightly. It might be a power cycle, suggested Engineer. Taisim, if there's a moment when the fields are weaker, we might have a chance. Kim nodded, her determination growing. We will get out, and when we do, we're taking this ship. Not just for us, but for everyone they've captured. She looked around at the faces of her crew. No one deserves to be hunted like this. As they waited for their chance, Kim watched the Vrax guards. These aliens had made a serious mistake. They saw humans as just another weak species to be consumed. They would soon learn how dangerous that mistake was. 3 days passed in the Vrax prison cells. Captain Kim and her crew watched everything. They learned that every 6 hours, the humming walls of their cells grew slightly weaker. This happened when the ship moved power to other systems. The next power shift is in 20 minutes, whispered Engineer Min from his cell. He had been counting the seconds between cycles, timing them perfectly. Kim nodded and looked at her crew. Despite their fear, their eyes showed determination. Remember the plan. When the fields weaken, Han goes first. Get to the control panel and open all our cells. Then we move to the storage room where they put our things. Han, a strong man with quick reflexes, stood ready at the edge of his cell. I won't let you down, Captain. The minutes passed slowly. Finally, the lights dimmed slightly, and the humming of the cell walls changed tone. Han pressed his hand against the energy field. Usually, it would push back hard, but now it felt softer. He pushed harder, and his hand went through. Moving quickly, Han squeezed his body through the weakened field. He ran to the control panel the Vrax used to open cells. After studying it for a moment, he pressed several buttons. One by one, the humming fields around the human cells disappeared. Hurry, Kim ordered as her crew gathered around her. We don't have much time before they notice. They moved silently through the prison area. Other alien prisoners watched them with a mixture of fear and hope. Kim wanted to free them too, but knew they needed to get weapons first. The group reached a storage area where the Vrax had put all items taken from captured ships. Han and Min forced the door open. Inside, they found their personal belongings, including communication devices and tools. Look for anything we can use as weapons, Kim said as they searched through the items. Suddenly, Kim heard Sue gasp. The doctor was looking at some food packets from their ship. What is it? Kim asked. Yesterday I dropped some of our spiced food when they brought us meals. The guard touched it and seemed hurt. Watch. Sue opened a packet of spicy dried meat and crumbled some into her hand. When she blew the small pieces into the air, they floated like dust. Just then, a Vrax guard entered the storage room. Before anyone could react, some of the spice dust reached its face. The alien made a high-pitched sound and fell back, its eye stalks waving wildly as it clawed at its face. It's hurting it, said Day with surprise. Our spices must be like poison to them. Kim moved quickly to the stunned guard and took its weapon. Everyone grab food packets. Use the spices as weapons. It seems their bodies can't handle what's normal for us. The crew stuffed their pockets with packets of spicy foods and small containers of salt, pepper, and other seasonings. They also found some tools they could use as weapons. Where to now, Captain? Asked Han, now holding the guard's stun stick. We need to learn more about this ship, Kim said. Let's find a computer terminal. They moved through the dark corridors, hiding whenever they heard the clicking sounds of Vrax communication. After some wrong turns, they found what looked like a control room with several screens showing different parts of the ship. Day sat at one of the computer stations. I can't read their language, but I can understand some of the symbols based on patterns. While Day worked, 2 Vrax entered the room. Han raised the stun stick, but Kim had another idea. She opened a packet of pepper and threw it at the aliens. The effect was immediate. The Vrax dropped to the floor, their limbs shaking as the spice affected their sensitive skin. Don't kill them, Kim ordered, as Han moved toward the helpless aliens. We're not like them. Day called out from the computer. Captain, I found the ship's layout. This vessel is huge. There are hundreds of Vrax on board, many in some kind of sleep state, and there are prison areas we didn't know about with more captives. Kim studied the ship map on the screen. We need to split up. Min, take Sue and Jin to find the engine room. Han, you come with me and Day to the bridge. The The rest of you, try to free the other prisoners. Use the spices if you meet guards, but avoid killing, if possible. Before they left the control room, Kim spoke to her crew one more time. The Vraks think we're just food. They've been doing this to species across the galaxy. Today we show them that humans aren't just prey. We're going to take this ship and end their hunting days. As they moved through the alien corridors, Kim felt a mixture of fear and determination. They were 12 humans against hundreds of Vraks on a ship they barely understood. The odds were terrible, but humans had always been good at beating the odds. When they reached a main corridor junction, the teams separated. Kim, Han, and Day turned toward the ship's front section where the bridge should be. "Stay close," Kim whispered as they heard the clicking sound of Vrak's communication ahead. "Remember, we have something they don't expect. They don't know that their food can bite back." Captain Kim, Han, and Day moved carefully through the large alien ship. They hid behind strange-shaped walls whenever Vrak's guards passed by. The ship was huge, with long hallways that seemed to go on forever. "The bridge should be 2 more levels up," whispered Day, looking at the small computer device he had taken from the control room. He had figured out enough of the alien symbols to understand the basic ship layout. "We need to find a way up without being seen," Kim said, looking around. Han pointed to a narrow tube in the wall. "Could that be some kind of lift?" They approached the tube carefully. It was big enough for the tall Vraks to fit inside. When they stepped in, the tube lit up. Symbols appeared on the wall. "I think this one means up," said Day, touching one of the glowing marks. The tube began to move, carrying them upward. When it stopped and the door opened, they found themselves in a wider hallway with better lighting. The walls were smoother here, with strange designs that might have been Vrak's art. "We must be getting close to important areas," said Kim. Just then, her communication device made a soft sound. It was Engineer Min calling from the engine room. "Captain, we made it to the engines," Min's voice came through quietly. "This technology is amazing. I think I can change the air controls from here." "Good work," Kim replied. "Can you make the air in the main areas uncomfortable for the Vraks but safe for us?" "I think so. Their breathing seems different from ours. I'll increase the oxygen level slightly and raise the humidity. It won't hurt them, but it might slow them down." "Do it," Kim ordered. "We're almost to the bridge." As they continued forward, they noticed the air becoming more humid. Soon they saw a group of Vrak's guards moving more slowly than usual, their breathing making strange sounds. "Min's plan is working," Han said with a smile. They reached a large door that had to be the entrance to the bridge. 4 Vrak's guards stood outside looking uncomfortable in the changed air but still alert. "We need a distraction," Kim whispered. Day pulled out a small device he'd been working on. "I connected our translator to their announcement system. I can make it sound like there's an emergency in the lower decks." "Do it," Kim said. Day pressed some buttons on his device. Suddenly, loud clicking sounds came from speakers throughout the ship. The guards looked at each other, then 3 of them hurried away, leaving just one at the door. "Now," Kim said. Han threw a handful of mixed spices at the remaining guard. The Vraks fell to its knees, its eye stalks waving wildly. They rushed past the suffering guard and forced the bridge door open. Inside, 5 Vraks turned in surprise. The bridge was a large round room with control stations all around and a big window showing the stars outside. Han quickly threw more spice at the nearest aliens. Kim and Day used stun sticks on the others. Within minutes they had control of the bridge. "Secure the door," Kim ordered, as Han dragged the unconscious Vraks to the side of the room. Day went straight to the main computer system. "I can access most of the ship's functions from here," he said excitedly. "But there's something strange. Look at these readings." Kim looked at the screen. Even though she couldn't read the alien language, she could see that a large part of the ship was shown in a different color. "What is that section?" she asked. "I think it's some kind of sleep area," Day replied. "There are hundreds of life signs, but they're in a low-energy state. Hibernation pods," Kim realized. "That's how they travel long distances. Most of the crew sleeps while just a few stay awake." Her communication device buzzed again. It was Sue this time. "Captain, we've found other prison areas." Sue's voice sounded shaken. "There are at least 50 different alien species being held captive." Some are in very bad condition, and we found processing rooms. Processing rooms? Kim asked. Yes, Sue's voice dropped lower. That's where they prepare their food. Captain, we have to stop them. Kim felt sick, but forced herself to focus. We will, Sue. We have control of the bridge now. Help as many prisoners as you can. Another call came in from the second team. Captain, this is Jin. We freed about 30 prisoners from different species. They're scared, but some want to help us. Good, Kim replied. Bring any who can fight to the bridge. We'll need all the help we can get. Over the next hour, the humans worked to secure more of the ship. From the bridge, Day locked down many areas, trapping Vrax guards away from important systems. Min continued to adjust the air, making it harder for the Vrax to function normally. The freed prisoners, led by Jin and his team, set up safe areas, where the weakest captives could recover. When Jin arrived at the bridge with 10 aliens of different species, Kim was shocked by their condition. They were thin and scared, but their eyes showed the same determination she had seen in her crew. We want to fight, said a tall blue alien with 4 arms, for our fallen people. And we will, Kim assured them. But not with more killing. We're going to end this cycle of violence. As Kim looked at the ship's controls, she realized they had done something incredible. 12 humans had taken control of a massive alien vessel using little more than spices and determination. But the hardest part was still ahead. Day, can you access their communication system? She asked. I want to talk to whoever leads these Vrax. I think so, Day said, working on the control panel. There seems to be a central authority figure in the hibernation section. I can wake just that one. Kim nodded. Do it. It's time we had a talk with the Vrax about finding a better way to live in this galaxy, one that doesn't involve eating other thinking beings. As the systems worked to wake the Vrax leader, Kim prepared herself for the most important conversation of her life. Captain Kim stood on the bridge of the massive Vrax ship, watching the monitor as the alien leader was awakened from hibernation. Unlike the other Vrax, this one had colorful markings on its hard outer shell and was noticeably larger. The screen showed it slowly moving in the hibernation chamber as systems pumped it with gases to wake it up. Are you sure about this, Captain? Han asked, standing beside her with a weapon ready. We could just keep them all asleep and take the ship back to Earth. Kim shook her head. No, that wouldn't solve anything. They have other ships out there doing the same thing. We need to change how they think, not just run away. The freed prisoners from different planets watched nervously as the Vrax leader fully woke up. Some of them moved back, afraid at the sight of the creature that had caused them so much suffering. Day, connect me to the hibernation chamber, Kim ordered. Day pressed some buttons on the control panel. You're connected, Captain. Kim took a deep breath. I am Captain Jia Kim of the planet Earth. We have taken control of your ship and freed your prisoners. I wish to speak with you. On the screen, the Vrax leader's eye stalks moved rapidly, taking in its surroundings. Then it spoke, its words translated by the ship's system into a mechanical-sounding voice. This is not possible. Food does not take ships. I am dominant thinker of the Great Hive. You will release control immediately or face destruction. Kim stood taller. We are not food. None of the beings on this ship are food. We are intelligent species with rights. Your hunting days are over. The Vrax leader made clicking sounds that weren't translated, possibly cursing. You are meat with thoughts. This changes nothing. Release me now. No, Kim said firmly. But I am willing to talk. I want to understand why you do this, and to show you another way to live. There was a long pause before the Vrax leader responded. You could have killed us all in hibernation. Why didn't you? Because we're not like you, Kim replied. We don't solve problems by killing. We want peace. This seemed to confuse the Vrax leader. It requested to be brought to the bridge under guard to continue the conversation. Kim agreed, but ordered Han to prepare strong spice packets in case things went wrong. When Dominant Thinker arrived at the bridge, everyone tensed. Even with its 4 arms held by restraints, the alien was frightening. It towered over the humans, its hard shell gleaming under the lights. Its eye stalks moved, constantly examining everyone. Interesting, it said after looking around. So many different types of meat working together. Unnatural. That's where you're wrong, Kim said. Cooperation is the most natural thing in the universe. It's how species survive and grow. Over the next several hours, Kim and Dominant Thinker talked about their different views of life. The Vraks, it turned out, had evolved as the strongest predators on their planet. They had never learned to cooperate with other species because they had never needed to. We have always eaten other thinking creatures, Dominant Thinker explained. First on our world, then on others as we reach the stars. This is the way of things. The strong consume the weak. But that's not the only way, Kim argued. Look at us. Humans aren't the strongest or fastest creatures even on our own planet. But we survived and grew because we learned to work together and use our minds. Strength isn't everything. As they talked, more freed prisoners came to the bridge. Each told their story of being captured and watching their friends disappear. Some spoke directly to Dominant Thinker, showing courage that impressed even the Vraks leader. You have never considered our pain, said a small green alien with 3 eyes. My children were taken. Did they not deserve to live just because they were weaker than you? For the first time, Dominant Thinker seemed unsure. Pain is part of the food chain. We do not think about the pain of food. But we're not just food, the green alien insisted. We think, we build, we love, just like you. While this conversation continued, Sue and Min were working on another problem. They had discovered that the Vraks needed certain proteins that they usually got from eating other beings. If they couldn't find another way for the Vraks to get these proteins, peace would be impossible. Sue brought her findings to Kim during a break in the talks. Captain, we might have a solution, she said quietly. Our food synthesizers can create proteins similar to what the Vraks need. With some adjustments, we could make food that would satisfy them without requiring them to eat other beings. Nodded, hope growing inside her. That could change everything. When the talks resumed, Kim presented this idea to Dominant Thinker. We can create food for your people that provides what you need, she explained. No one has to die or suffer. You can live without hunting others. Artificial food. The Vraks leader's eye stalks bent in what might have been disgust. The Vraks have never eaten things not alive. Try it before you decide, Kim suggested. What do you have to lose? After much debate, Dominant Thinker agreed to try the synthetic food Sue and Min had created. To everyone's surprise, the Vraks leader found it acceptable. The taste is strange, but the feeling of fullness is the same, it admitted. This small success opened the door to real talks. Representatives from all the freed species formed a council. They worked together to create a plan for the future. One, where the Vraks would stop hunting other beings and join the galactic community as equals. It will not be easy, Dominant Thinker told Kim later. Many Vraks will resist change. Our entire history tells us to hunt. Change is never easy, Kim agreed. But it's necessary for growth. My people have had to change many times throughout our history. You can too. As the ship changed course toward the nearest space station, where the freed prisoners could contact their homeworlds, Kim felt cautiously hopeful. They had taken a first step toward peace. The massive Vraks ship, now called the Harmony by its new mixed crew, floated near the busy space station called Star Point. It had been 30 days since Captain Kim and her crew had taken control of the vessel. In that time, much had changed. Captain Kim walked down a corridor that had once been dark and frightening. Now the lights were brighter, and colorful signs in different languages marked the way. She nodded to a group of freed aliens who were carrying supplies. They smiled and nodded back, no longer afraid. Kim entered what had once been the ship's bridge. It now served as the meeting room for the newly formed Council of Species. Representatives from 12 different planets sat around a large table, with Dominant Thinker of the Vraks sitting across from Kim. The food production is going well, reported Sue, who had taken charge of creating synthetic proteins for the Vraks. We've made enough to feed all the Vraks who are awake, and we're teaching their food specialists how to make it themselves. Good, said Kim. She turned to Dominant Thinker. And how are your people adjusting to the new diet? The Vraks leaders' eye stalks moved in what Kim had learned was a sign of thoughtfulness. There is resistance, as expected, but hunger is a strong teacher. Those who have tried the synthetic food find it acceptable. Some even prefer it because it causes no moral discomfort. This last part surprised Kim. Moral discomfort? I thought the Vraks didn't see eating other species as wrong. We didn't, admitted Dominant Thinker. But some of us are beginning to understand your view. When you live alongside beings you once saw as food, you start to see them differently. A small blue alien named Pell spoke up. My people have agreed to share our water filtering technology with the Vraks' homeworld. From what Dominant Thinker has told us, their planet suffers from water pollution. And my people will help with medical knowledge, added another council member, a tall plant-like being called Vren. The Vraks have many diseases that could be cured with our medicines. Kim smiled as she listened to the council members sharing ideas. It wasn't perfect. There were still arguments and mistrust, but it was progress. The Vraks were learning to see other species as partners rather than prey. After the meeting, Kim walked with Dominant Thinker to the ship's garden area. This space had once been a storage room for captured beings awaiting processing. Now it was filled with plants from different worlds, tended by a mix of species. I have been thinking about your planet Earth, said Dominant Thinker as they walked. You said humans were not the strongest creatures there, yet you survived and grew. That's right, Kim replied. We had to use our minds and work together. Yet you also told me humans once ate other animals on your planet. Kim nodded, knowing this was a difficult topic. Yes, many still do. But we try not to cause needless suffering, and we never eat other thinking beings. Many humans choose not to eat animals at all. A middle path, the Vraks leader said thoughtfully, not preying on equals but still part of the natural cycle. Perhaps this is what we must learn. They stopped by a window looking out at the stars. 3 Vrak ships had arrived at the space station after receiving messages from Dominant Thinker. Their leaders were cautious but curious about the changes. Tomorrow the other hive leaders will come aboard, said Dominant Thinker. They are not convinced yet. Will you speak to them? Of course, Kim said. Change takes time. We don't expect thousands of years of Vraks' behavior to change in a month. Later that day, Kim met with her original crew in what had become their private meeting room. They had been through so much together, and now they faced a new challenge going home. Earth has responded to our messages, Kim told them. They're sending ships to meet us. They want us to come home as heroes. But what about all this? Asked Min, gesturing around the ship. What about the council and the peace we're building? That's what we need to decide, Kim said. We can go home, or we can stay and continue what we've started. The crew talked for hours. Some missed Earth and wanted to return. Others felt their work on the Harmony wasn't finished. In the end, they made individual choices. 5 would return to Earth to tell their story and bring back more humans to help. 7, including Kim, would stay with the Harmony. The next morning, as the Vraks hive leaders came aboard, Kim stood ready to greet them. These new Vraks had never seen different species working together as equals. They clicked their mouthparts in what seemed like disgust or surprise. Welcome to the Harmony, Kim said through the translator. We have much to show you. The largest hive leader stepped forward. Dominant Thinker says you have created food without hunting. This seems impossible. Nothing is impossible when different minds work together, Kim replied. Let me show you what cooperation can achieve. As Kim led the Vraks leaders through the ship, she pointed out the advances they had made. The improved engine systems designed by Min and engineers from 3 different worlds. The new medical bay where Sue worked with healers from across the galaxy. The garden where plants from 20 planets grew together. When they reached the dining hall, a special meal had been prepared. At one long table sat representatives from all species on the ship, including several Vraks who had embraced the new way. On my planet, Kim explained to the visiting leaders, sharing food is a symbol of peace and friendship. Today we invite you to join us at this table, not as hunters or prey, but as equals with much to learn from each other. The hive leaders looked at each other, their eye stalks moving in complex patterns. Finally, the largest one stepped forward and sat at the table. We will try this new way, it said, for today. Kim smiled as she took her own seat. One meal wouldn't change everything. The road ahead would be long and difficult. There would be setbacks and resistance. But today, former enemies were sharing food instead of seeing each other as food. It was a beginning. As they ate together under the stars, Kim thought about how far they had come. 12 humans had changed the course of an ancient species and perhaps the future of this part of the galaxy. Not with superior strength or advanced weapons, but with courage, creativity, and the simple belief that understanding was better than fear. It was, she decided, the most human solution of all.